My girlfriend pretended to be pregnant to keep me from leaving. I found out the truth and exposed her lies. I'm 28, male, and I've always been the kind of person who values honesty above all else in a relationship. My girlfriend, let's call her G, and I had been dating for about 2 years. At first, everything seemed perfect. She was charming, funny, and we shared many interests. But over time, cracks began to show. She became possessive, overly dramatic about small disagreements, and always found a way to twist any argument into being my fault. I stayed longer than I should have, mostly because I believed in giving people chances to change. But about 3 months ago, I realized I couldn't do it anymore. G's behavior was emotionally draining, and I felt like I was constantly walking on eggshells. I decided it was time to end things. The day I told her, she acted surprisingly calm at first. "If that's what you want," she said, her voice flat. "I won't stop you." It felt too easy. I almost doubted my decision, but something in her tone put me on edge. She wasn't one to let go without a fight, and I couldn't shake the feeling that she had something planned. A week later, she called me out of the blue. Her voice was shaky, and she sounded like she had been crying. "We need to talk," she said. "What's going on?" I asked, already dreading the answer. "I'm pregnant," she blurted out. "I just found out, and it's yours." I was stunned. We had always been careful, so the news didn't make sense to me. But the gravity of her words hit me like a ton of bricks. If she was telling the truth, everything about my future was about to change. "Are you sure?" I asked cautiously. "Yes," she said firmly. "I took 2 tests. I wasn't going to tell you, but I can't do this alone." I agreed to meet her the next day to talk. When I arrived, she had a stack of papers on the table, pamphlets about prenatal care, baby gear catalogs, and a calendar she claimed was to track her symptoms. She even showed me a picture of a positive pregnancy test. "I know this is a lot," she said, tears streaming down her face. "But I need you to step up. We're going to be parents." At first, I felt guilty for even doubting her. But as the days passed, little things didn't add up. For one, she seemed to go out of her way to avoid talking about doctor's appointments. When I asked about getting an ultrasound, she brushed it off, saying it was too early. And the more I thought about it, the more the timing didn't make sense based on when we'd last been together. My doubts grew stronger, so I decided to do a little digging. I started by researching the type of pregnancy test she had shown me in the picture. A quick search revealed that the brand was notorious for producing false positives if not used correctly. That alone didn't prove she was lying, but it gave me enough reason to investigate further. I suggested going with her to her next doctor's appointment. "I want to support you," I said, trying to keep my tone casual. But her reaction wasn't what I expected. She hesitated, then said, "You don't need to come. It's just a routine checkup." Still, I pressed, "It would mean a lot to me to be there." Her face hardened. "I don't need you hovering over me. Can't you just trust me?" Her defensiveness set off even more alarms. If she was really pregnant, why wouldn't she want me involved? I decided to push the issue. The next day, I told her I had made an appointment with an OB/GYN for us to go together. Her reaction was immediate. "Why would you do that without asking me?" She snapped. "I already have a doctor." "Then let's meet your doctor," I said calmly. "I just want to make sure everything's okay." She fumbled for an excuse, claiming her doctor was out of town and that she didn't want to see someone new. By this point, I was almost certain she was lying, but I needed concrete proof. I reached out to a mutual friend who was close to G. Let's call her F. I knew F was loyal to G, but I also knew she hated being dragged into drama. Over coffee, I casually brought up the pregnancy. "So, G's been pretty overwhelmed lately with the baby stuff," I said. "Has she talked to you about it?" F froze for a moment, then quickly recovered. Yeah. She mentioned it once or twice." Her hesitation spoke volumes. "She told me she found out weeks ago," I added, watching her reaction closely. "But she hasn't seen a doctor yet. Isn't that odd?" F looked uncomfortable. "You should talk to her about that," she said, clearly trying to avoid getting involved. That's when it hit me. G hadn't told F because there was no pregnancy to talk about. The final piece of the puzzle came when I searched for the original photo of the pregnancy test she had sent me. It didn't take long to find the exact same image on Google. She hadn't even bothered to take her own picture, she just downloaded one from the internet. Armed with the truth, I decided it was time to confront her. I invited G over to my apartment and told her we needed to talk. She arrived looking anxious but still maintained her facade of innocence. I've been doing some thinking, I began, keeping my tone steady. And I have a few questions about the pregnancy. Her face tensed. What kind of questions? Why haven't you seen a doctor yet? I asked. And why did I find the exact photo of your pregnancy test on Google? Her eyes widened, and for a split second, I saw panic flash across her face. But she quickly shifted into defensive mode. Are you seriously accusing me of lying? She said, her voice rising. I can't believe you'd stoop this low. Gee, I said, holding up my phone to show her the Google image search. This is the picture you sent me. Care to explain? She stammered, scrambling for an excuse. I didn't want to send you the real one because it felt too personal. I didn't think it mattered. It matters, I said firmly. And it's not just the picture. Nothing about your story adds up. If you're really pregnant, prove it. That's when the tears started. She tried to spin it into a sob story, claiming she was scared and didn't know how to handle my rejection. I thought you were going to leave me, she cried. I just wanted to make you stay. By lying about something this serious? I said, shaking my head. Do you even realize what you've done? You didn't just lie, you manipulated me into staying in a relationship I was ready to walk away from. She collapsed onto the couch, sobbing uncontrollably. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said. I just love you so much. I didn't feel an ounce of sympathy. Love doesn't look like this, G, I said. This isn't love. It's control. I told her to leave, and for the first time, she didn't argue. She gathered her things and walked out the door, still crying, but I didn't look back. I felt a mix of relief and anger, knowing that I had finally freed myself from her manipulative grasp. But the story didn't end there. Over the next few days, G began reaching out to mutual friends, spinning the narrative to make herself the victim. She claimed I had emotionally abandoned her and that the fake pregnancy was a cry for help. Some people bought into her story, but I wasn't about to let her tarnish my reputation without a fight. I decided to take control of the narrative. I reached out to a few close friends and shared the evidence I had collected, the fake pregnancy test photo, her contradictory messages, and her own admission that she lied. The truth spread quickly, and her attempts to paint herself as the victim fell apart. Mutual friends began distancing themselves from G. One even messaged me to say, I can't believe she'd stoop that low. You're better off without her. Slowly but surely, the web of lies she had spun began to unravel. Meanwhile, I focused on rebuilding my life. Breaking up with G wasn't just about ending a toxic relationship, it was about reclaiming my sense of self. I started spending more time with friends, diving into hobbies I had neglected, and even went on a solo trip to clear my head. The final act of closure came a month later when G showed up at my apartment unannounced. She looked tired and desperate, a stark contrast to the confident, manipulative person I had known. I just want to talk, she said, her voice trembling. I crossed my arms, blocking the doorway. There's nothing left to say. Please, she begged. I'm sorry for everything. I was stupid, and I made a mistake. Can we at least try to fix things? Her words didn't move me. You didn't just make a mistake, G, I said. You tried to control me by playing with something as serious as a pregnancy. That's not something I can forgive. Tears streamed down her face as she realized I wasn't going to budge. I don't know what to do without you, she whispered. You figure it out, I said, stepping back and closing the door. In the months since, I've made peace with what happened. G's betrayal was painful, but it taught me the importance of trusting my instincts and standing up for myself. I've learned to recognize red flags early and to never let someone guilt me into staying in a relationship that doesn't serve me. To anyone reading this, remember, love isn't manipulation, and true partnerships are built on trust, not lies. If you're in a situation that feels wrong, don't ignore your gut. And if you enjoyed this story of standing up to toxic behavior, hit that subscribe button. Life's too short for fake love. Stay tuned for more stories of taking control and moving on.